Hey everybody, it's David Art Becker here with BeckerArt, and we're back to do a paint along. Yay! Hey Sue. So yes, I've been all over the place. Man, I've been everywhere, and I've been doing tons and tons of demonstrations for a lot of people, a lot of art societies and stuff. But that's it for a little bit, I think. And so now I'll be able to do every Thursday, and right here in my studio. Hey Monica, from Washington. All right. And so today we're doing a little bit something that I had done in my newsletter this week on Tuesday. I have my newsletter and I did some salt. So I put some salt into the painting we did this afternoon in class, and here it is what we're painting today. A little truck scene. I'm gonna use some different colors, I think, this afternoon or this evening. So we'll see how we go about it this week, this afternoon, or this evening. So. And for our beer for today comes again from Wisconsin. Remember I said Bruce had given me like six different ones. This one's from Milwaukee, and this one is called Louis' Demise Amber Ale. Don't know what that's about. That's local flavor, it says, from Milwaukee Brewing Company. So Milwaukee Brewing Company, we'll see how this tastes. And we give all our beers, for those of you new, I always rate a beer. And we're going to have a few from Milwaukee and from Wisconsin coming up in the next thing. So Bruce from one of my classes at Dillman's had brought me like six different ones. So I think we're into our, we have four more. So we'll see from that. And let's just let the foam go down, and I'll give you my rating. And so, hey Ilza, hey Brenna, Barbara, Kathy, Liz, Mary Ann. And let's see what we got here. And Linda, everyone, I love our Thursdays nights here. Well, thank you. This is fun. And actually, some people had asked that I'm going to stop doing them. I never said I was going to stop doing them. No, I'm going to keep on doing them. I love doing these. And so as long as you guys learn a lot, I'm going to keep on doing them. So here, let's go to our website, just that all of you newcomers know where to find the stuff that I'm doing. I go to BeckerArt.net or DavidRBecker.com. Either one. Supplies are going to be used as always. Holbein watercolors, Holbein brushes with my name on them. So you can get those at my website. We didn't use some transfer paper, and we're not using any Mascoid today, but we're going to be using the Stonehenge Aqua Paper by Legion. And so let's go to our value study right away. Our value study. So today I want to really explain this to you guys. And if you, I've been teaching now my workshops, and I really want to bring this across to you guys that when I look at my values, I look at the black and white. And so this time I turned this image right here from gray tones, from middle tones. There's some middle tones in here, and there's some black and white, but there's a lot of middle tone in here. So I usually look at the image and I want to see what the black and white pattern is on it. And so I did this in Photoshop, and you don't have an outline and outer edge, but you can kind of see that here are my lights. Those are my lights. The light here, the fender, the hood, and the background. And yeah, you can kind of do this. This middle tone decided to shift a little bit more into the light than into the dark. So like I said, middle tone can go either way. And so what I'm going to decide is that I'm going to probably make the windows a little bit lighter, because I kind of like this pattern that all the lights on top, and then our center of interest right here around the light. That's pretty much what the center of interest is going to be, or the area of interest that I like to call it. Things like details, like these little the grills and stuff, that's just detail. That doesn't do much for the composition of the lights and darks. It's so important to get this pattern and to make sure this pattern of light and dark look good. And it looks pretty decent, it's a look, and it's weighed a little bit on the top, and you get the light there, and it's got a little bit on the bottom, so it's actually got a nice weight to it. And it's just basically looking at it and saying, yeah, now if it's scattered all lights and darks all over the place, then it's kind of hard to paint that. This will be very easy to paint because these darks is what we're painting. And we do our lights first, and we always do that first, our lights first, and so we'll do that. All right, so let's go to our tabletop and get started here. So here's the one I did this afternoon, and now my beer's down enough to see and taste it. And so cheers, everybody. Cheers to Louis' Demise. Amber Ale from the Milwaukee Brewing Company. That's local flavor. Okay. I'm going to give that a, because it's a little bitter for me, I'm not a big bitter fan. Or what do you call it? a, what do you call those things? Anyways, it's about 8.5. I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's decent, but it's a little bitter. All right. Let's see who else is here. We've got Patty, Evelyn, Lynn, Lori, and Evelyn. We got from Sheboygan. We got, Sheboygan. Ella. All right, so let's get going here. So, as you can see, I did not use salt. I used my fingers, I put them in water, and I spurted it like this with water because I didn't have my salt in the classroom this afternoon. And so this is the salt I'm going to try to get this time. Salt kind of gives you also a more of an effect depending on how much you put on. And I think I almost put a little bit too much. I sprayed it a little bit too much. I just wanted to have the wash being looking kind of rough and stuff. And it's okay. I mean, it looks fine and stuff. I'm going to use a little bit different colors. I used blue and orange for this example this afternoon. And so I'm going to go more for, I think, yellows and violets this time, and not go so much with the blue and the orange thing. And because it's kind of like it was rust. I'm figuring orange was kind of a rusty looking car because this car is, excuse me, is very rusty. And so we went with the orange, but we're going to go with more yellow and the violet. And so the sky in the background, I'll probably make yellow and bring that right into the car. And also I want to show you what I did too, is in the drawing, if you look at the drawing, I kind of took this off the side, off the edge, into the background and got rid of, let me just show you the picture, the photo again. So this back here, see all this stuff back here? When I drew it up the first time, it made, the foreshortening made this truck look very, very short. And so it comes right up to that point, and so there's all this space back here. And I decided, because it didn't look so good when we were painting it, this is the back fender, which is like a really big black fender that they must put on afterwards because it doesn't look anything like this front fender, that I decided to just bring this whole fender and this thing all the way off the page. I just moved this all over when it came to drawing it, because then I don't see that little bit of stuff over here. This little bit of light over here. The light wouldn't have, I don't think this works so great over here. You know, I don't think I want to make that light. I just want to make the top, and I don't need this little stuff. Now I did see these little grasses and weeds coming up here. I did like that, and so if you look at my painting here, I put these back in. I put them a little different style, but I put weeds back in, and I made them light. And I could have put masquerade down for them if I didn't want to use opaques, but I just used white with orange. I made opaques, and I'm fine with that. You don't have to be. If you want to put masking fluid there to get those little images, that's fine too. If you want to be more traditionalist, watercolors, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. So let's get started here, and we always start with our lights. Happy? Yes? Oh, happy. Happy. Oh yeah, you're right, Bob. It's kind of a little happy for me. I like it not so much bitter, but it's okay. 18, hey Patty, hey Bob. All right, let's get going here. So lights always are, again, I'm going to point this out again this week. I think I've been starting to do this a lot in my classes. I tell you that you do your paintings in 3 steps. Let me wipe my palette off here a little bit so I have a little bit of a clean space in here. But I do my paintings all in 3 steps, and I think if you've been with me for a while, you kind of know that the first step is always my lights. So I'm going to go in here and finish my lights. Just get in there and do your light washes, which are your colors, and so you'll determine what kind of colors you're going to be using for the whole painting. And so that's the first thing I will do. I'm going to go in here, put my beer aside, and all right. So the lights are the background. And remember the black and white that I made and everything. So the topic here, the background, and this area right here are my lights. So I'm going to wet it as I go along, and I said, like I said, I'm going to be using yellows and violets this time. I gave you a black and white image this time, only because I want you to make up the colors on this one. It's basically, it was a very gray picture to start with, so you don't have to look at any kind of color. You know it's going to be a rusty truck, and so I'm going to put yellow up there, very light, because that's my light area. I'm going to use actually a little bit of white in there too, just to kind of make it dull it down a little bit, the yellow. Because I don't like a pure yellow. I'm just going to bring that into there. And I'm going to bring that into the truck. I'm going to make the truck kind of a orangey yellow. You know, the light part of the truck. Oh, I forgot I want to keep white. I want to keep the white on the truck this time. So I'm going to whip this out a little bit. I want to keep the top of the truck and the top of the fender a little bit just pure white. Meaning that I'm going to use the white of the paper. And so I'm going to do that. And I'll use a little gold. A little quinacridone gold. Q gold, I always call it. I'm going to use that for like some of the dark parts of the shadowing. And then it's going to go into violet. It's going to go from that to violet, but right now I'm just doing my lights. Again, my lights are first. I will kind of go into a violet right here, from a gold to a violet. And I'll put that in there. Keeping the top part light. And right over here, and you know what? Let me just, for 1 second, I forgot to put the image on this site, and I totally forgot. I can't believe I did that. Okay, let's go really quickly and put that on here. Here is my image, and just so that you guys can see what I am talking about. So here is the image, and see right over there on the top of the lights, right here and here. Those are my lights. So again, that's what I'm going to be putting, leaving a little bit of white on the very top, and putting in my yellow with my white and some little gold. And we're going to leave that for our light top part. And while we're doing that, that doesn't mean I don't have to stop. Like for when I'm teaching, I stop then, because then I want the students to do that. But the nice thing is about when I'm doing these Thursday night paint-alongs, I just keep on going. So it'll still be wet, and I'm going to just keep on going with the darks as I go along. That way I can make it go for a really nice soft wet wash. I'm going to leave around this part, and I should have left that little white because that's part of my white, and I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow out of here because I want my violet to be in here. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit with my brush. And I know it looks really, really, really bright right now, but I'm looking for that. And I'm going to do the background. I'm going to do in a gray. I'm just going to do some trees back here. I'm just going to let them run across the top here. Just going to bring them down real quickly. I could have done this later too, but I'm going to do it right now. Make like little trees in the distance happening right there, and that's going to be to the edge. I can make it look at the top of the trees. Yes, it looks kind of greenish, but I'm going to put a little bit more violet in there. And again, my complements tonight are yellow and violet. That's what I'm going to be using color-wise. And back here, I'm going to put a little bit of dark in here, a little lavender. Go around this. And I'm going to put a little gray inside here right away. I'm going to gray this up. And leave the window alone in the back there. This is inside, which is actually my light, so I can make a middle tone, but it has to go more towards my light, the middle tone. Because when I made them black and white, like when I went back to my value study, and I made them everything black and white, very much so black and white with no tones on it, no gray scale, that turned to white. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it a little bit lighter. I won't make it that bright, so I'm going to put a little bit of lavender in there just to dull it down. Because violet is its complement, so you put two complements together, they kind of turn gray or kind of brownish. All right, so now let's go into our dark. Let's see, we didn't do our front headlight yet. So let's wet that and just kind of go in there. I'm going to leave a lot of it white, and because it's reflecting some light in there, but then I'm going to just put some violet in there. See, I'm going with violet, and it can even be a blue violet if you want it to be. I'm just going to go in there and then just make, again, these are my lights. I'm still doing my lights. I'm going to put that a little bit farther than that. And what else do we have here? We have the gas cap right here. Put a little bit of that in there. You got that mirror on the side here. Put a little bit of that light. These are things that are going to be light, so I can go beyond that because the rest of it's going to be dark. Now, before this dries, I want to get in here real quickly. So that's my lights. Done with my lights. Those are my lights. I don't have to go back to my lights anymore. Now, the rest is all dark. Rest is dark. So let me just go right away and pick up some nice lavender or some nice violets. And I'm going to start with it right here because I want to make sure that this edge right here is a soft edge all the way from the front up here. I'm going to kind of bring it down through here, and this is still wet, so I can just kind of go and see what happens when yellow and violet are put together. You get a brown. Well, hey, this truck is probably kind of brownish gray, rusty with a little bit of red in there, and you can still put a little red in there. There's no problem with putting a little red in there. I'm going to go right to the top of this light, which is a hard edge. And so I didn't wet that for that reason. And then I put a little bit of lavender in there too. Make it look a little bit gray. Lavender is gray. And so I want to kind of bring it down. It's not going to be black like in the black and white. It still is a middle tone, but it's more towards a middle tone towards a dark. So this is more of a dark. So you go over the 50 marker. You go to the 50 marker line because it's not a light. But you have to head over that halfway point, which is then, into the light area, and this is the dark area. And so you can always put a little bit of yellow and gold back into this too. And you put a little gold in there, and it's all floating pigment. See how it's all floating? And I wanted to get this soft edge there so that it picks it up so nicely. So I'm just going to go in here, make that a hard edge, come down, bring that in there. Oh, I just went right over my gas cap. Shoot. Oh well. It's going to go right over this area. Maybe a little bit of violet in some spots. And you notice how I'm wetting as I go along. I don't want to wet the whole thing because if I wet the whole thing, then I can't have these hard edge lines where I need them. And so I just wet it as I go along, and then I drop other colors in there at the same time. See, I just kind of put it in there. I'm going to leave this window alone here. Kind of come down again on my gas cap. I'll just rub that out. I'm just having too much trouble. I'm just going to go right over it. I'll rub it out afterwards. It's too small a thing to worry about. I want to do something big. And so I'm going to take violet, some more violet. Just going to go down here, do the door right after the back, and the whole back here, the part of the car. I'm just going to wet that, just bring a beautiful wash. I always talk about beautiful washes, doing beautiful washes. And when I talk about doing beautiful washes, or I started thinking what a better name for them, because beautiful is good. You just want it to be something that is different from all your other washes. What can you do with your wash that other people can't do? Like, are you going to put salt in there? Are you going to spatter it? Are you going to scrape it? What is it about your washes that look cool? Is it because you float other colors in there that are just so weird and so opposite? Or what is it about your washes that make your paintings your painting? Like, what's your style? What kind of wash? There's many different artists who do all different kind of styles when it comes to the washes they use. And it's I like doing big, large washes like this, and then I like floating pigment into there so that they just look beautiful. And then you can also make the granulation happen. Granulation is where you see the medium, like the actual medium, the pigment. The pigment is just floating in the water, and it's really cool like that. So as I go down here, I'm just going to keep on going, bring some more colors in here. How about some red? Let's put some red in here. Let's put some warm in the front here. Put some warm in the front. I go around this where it's going to be nice, and if I go slow, I can make a really nice edge there too. And then there's a spot right down here where it's lit up. Like, I should have put that yellow, but that's okay. So now I'm gonna while this is at a certain point, I've got my Morton salt, and I do want to put a little bit of this in here. Not very much, as I did before. And if I just throw a few here and there, I don't have to do as much as I normally do, like I did in the newsletter I did this week on Tuesday. I'm just gonna put a little bit there, just to give it a little bit of this metallic texture. Metallic texture meaning that I'm putting a little bit of it's gonna make it look like it's metal, basically, like it's rusted. And if you look at what I did here I spattered. I just went with water and I spattered, made little dots. It makes it look like a textury metal that's been rusting for a while. And I think the salt will give me a better look than what that is. And so, if you guys got any questions, I look up every once in a while. I didn't look up for a little bit, but I don't see any questions. But give me some questions, guys. And also, if you put your browser or if you put in that you want to have closed caption, it does closed caption my words. And if you put closed captioning, if you put it on, It does. I just checked that out. I have it so that it will everything I say it will type underneath there for you. If you're away and you can't see it, or if you're um, but I've looked up for that, and so it does work. I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow. Now down here, I'm gonna go from this point. This part right here is a little shadow too, and so I'm gonna leave that shadowed. I'm just gonna come up this way, and then there's a light right here, goes to here. There's a little shadow this way too. And you notice how I just use one color there, but then I fill out a color inside there too. I go a little bit darker where it starts, this shadow. And then we're gonna wet this area over here because this is already dry. So what I'm gonna have to do is re-wet it. And I wet it with clean water, a little bit higher than what I have where I want it. I'm gonna go down here and then let that bleed in there. Gonna come down here. And see how it's just a beautiful wash? It's just wash that's floating and giving you some really neat effects and stuff. And the effects is what you want to look for. What kind of effect can you get? What is it in your wash that you can make different than anybody else can do? What is it that you can figure out? Is it a certain color that just works really well together? Granulates really well. I know ultramarine blue usually granulates really well. Even though I'm not using any, let's try a little bit of ultramarine blue in here. And then I'll put a little bit of, I just forgot to put some gold in here. And see, this is like where light shifts to the, from where light shifts to the dark. I'm going to put that, this going up this way. And then this is basically going to be the grasses. And so I'm going to shift this and make this a soft edge on the bottom here. I'm just going to let that bleed in so it does look more like a shadow here. I don't want it to be hard edged. I'm just going to let it shadow it in there. And by just wetting it, it'll soften the edge. I'll make it go down like that. Now this is going to dry pretty light, so let's get that a little bit darker, a little bit more pigment. A little bit more pigment makes it stop, and so it won't get too light. I'm going to try to get a little bit darker color in there. And I'm not sure if you can see what the salt is doing. It's not doing very much right up here because it was a little bit dry. But you have to catch it at a certain time. But it's still working, and that's where you don't want to use a hairdryer. Never use hairdryer when you're using salt because it has to work itself into there. And so I'm going to put this a little darker right here. And with a little bit, I have to get a little bit more of the quinacridone gold. And then through here, I'm going to take my small brush, and there's a shadow across the top of there, which is actually kind of hard edged. And so I'm just going to take that from here over this way and down. Take that down through there. Go right over this spot. Now, this is going to be grasses, but pretty much dark grasses. And so I will go dark in here at first, and then put also my light. I should have put some light colors in there in the very beginning. That way I could have done it now. Like I missed by putting some nice light colors down here. Hey Betsy, hey Maria, hey Maura, hey Marilyn. Ask some questions, guys. I love questions. I don't have enough violet in here. I just noticed that I don't have much violet in here, so let's put some more violet in here. It's too late down in this area because that's already dry. But it has a nice wash, a nice feel to it, and it will give a little bit of a nice, with the salt on the front here. I'm going to spatter a little bit with my fingers. I'm just going to do a few things so we can get up here. I'm just going to take a couple of, make little watermarks. Just because I think it needs that texture, which is I want to make my wash of pigment. I want to make it a little bit more, you know, looking like it's textured instead of flat like a really fancy car that's really sharp edged. I don't want that. I don't need that. I need something that's really, you know, old and rusty. So I can put this a little dark right here, and then let's just go to a nice color of gold over here. The color of gold, I want this to have come back in here, where I want to later put in these grasses. And I'll do that. I'll put in grasses that are going to be opaque. I could have put, like I said, I could have put a wash there with masking fluid, but I decided not to. All right, and so see that little dots I have in there? This is salt over here, and this over here is just my water, speckles of water. This has salt on it. I'm very thick salt, but it's not doing as much right now. But it will still, but it's still drying, so you get a little bit of texture in there. And here I got a little bit of texture up there. All right, and so here I should have waited because now I've got a little bit of that on top of the hood, which I would like to have sharp edge. But I can rub that out. I can rub that out with the... So let's try some more Louis Demise. Louis Demise here. This is our beer tonight. I gave it an 8.5 because it's a little bit hoppy, but not bad. Hoppy meaning in hops. A little bit, but it's not as bitter as I'm getting used to it now. But still 8.5. Air paintbrushes. All right, so I'm kind of stalling here because I have to let things dry a little bit. So while this is drying, I'm going to go into my center of interest, my area of interest right here. This lamp right here is the one. That's the one that got me look really good. And so if you notice on the picture right above it here, where is it? Right there, the picture above. See the lamp right there? How the lamp, it starts from a dark and goes to light. So I will wet that little area. I will wet that little area right in here. And I'm going to make a soft edge, so I wet it. And I stay away from the chrome, because that piece that around it is chrome. And so for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it really shiny looking. And that's just by making it light and dark with hard edges. So I will not wet that area. I'll go down and I'll get that violet on the bottom part here. I'll just go with violet. I'll have it go up. And I should have waited until it dries because now it's into my bottom of there. Which is okay, because then what I'll do is I'll put another color in there and I'll reflect another color up above there. And as it goes up, I'll go more for a gold where it stops here, it kind of bleeds from here to the light. So I'll put a little bit of that in here. Use a little bit of water, blend it together, and just come from the top down. And just get a nice gradation. And see how now it goes from a light to a dark. Nice and even, because I don't smooth it out. The pigment does it on its own because I've kept it wet. Because it's in a wash, in a large puddle of water. So I don't have to soften edges when you put water in there for it. It will do it on its own. And then there's the reflection afterwards. That's kind of nice. Later on I will put a really dark there, but right now it's still damp, so you can't do that. Now I'll take my round brush, and now let's get into this lamp itself, because I have to wait for the other stuff to dry before I can do anything there. So I'm going to take a nice dark, a nice violet, and maybe a little black and blue. Just make it really dark, and I'm going to go in here. Go lean forward a little bit. I don't have my ruler with me, my new ruler that I can make straight lines with or keep my finger on. Almost like a maul stick. So I'm going to go in here and just go around. Make a nice sharp line there. Kind of come around this way. Make it on this side too. See, nice brush stroke. And how do I get brush strokes that clean? Practice. Practice your brush strokes. Go in there with one brush stroke. You can do these things. And I let them put my finger somewhere where it's not wet. And I hold my hand there so I can just real lightly go and make a nice line there. You know, just keeping my finger steady. And I do that with, again, I do that with my pinky. Now I'm going to take a little bit of lavender into the light. And the light itself, if you look, there's a little bit of dark right here. And it kind of goes down. And it goes to a point. It kind of goes to a point here. I kind of drew in a little bit of the lines like this. And then there's some lines going this way. And you don't have to do it exactly like the lamp, but you know, if it's there, try to copy it a little bit. I mean, that's why you have the reference, so you can kind of look at it and see what you can do with that reference. That's why you have reference. It's not to copy it to a T, it's to copy it and know what's happening. And some people like to take it to where it looks photographic, and some people like to, like myself, just like to use it for little hints of what makes it look real. What makes this thing look real is these little lines in the glass itself of the headlight. And as I go down, so I take the big picture, I take the big things that I see, and I just kind of put them in there. I don't need to put so much detail in that you see exactly what's there. Just some things that identify what the glass is, kind of. That's basically glass, right? And so there's little textures in the glass, the little lines. And when people do the hyperrealism, they take it to an extreme. They go exactly what they see, and so they draw it also. They trace it so that it is exactly what the photograph is. You can do that too. That's no big deal. You know, yes, it is a big deal for me because I don't have the patience. But if you want to do that, just go slow and make sure your drawing is right on. You got to make sure that everything in your drawing is exactly what you see in the photograph. And then the same way we do our things here too, though, with the wet washes and stuff. With the washes, you still float your pigment, you still do all that kind of thing, but you do it a lot tighter. Now the chrome has some darks and lights that are hard edge, so it looks like they're dry. And so I'm going to go in here, and it goes in the bottom here. There's some hard edges, and it's from light to dark, and it goes pretty quickly. There's little dashes in here because it's reflecting. It's like a mirror. It's reflecting the darks around it. And on the top here, there's a little screw head in here, and so I put that in there. And then I'm going to put, there's a little bit of a dark in here. And I'm going to use a violet because that's my complement for the yellow. And so I'm pretty much just going by the complements of yellow and violet. I can add other colors into that, but I'm pretty much keeping them to the violet yellow. And yes, there are reds in there, and there could be blues in it too. But don't make that your primary, because if you make that your primary, then you lose the big picture of the violet and yellow. I decide that in the very beginning when I'm starting with my first wash, which is my lights, and that's when I decide my color scheme. And the color scheme again being yellow and violet. And that doesn't mean you can't put other colors in there. It just means that approximately most of the things in your wash will be in the yellow and the violet tones. Not everything has to be then that though. You can still put other colors in there. It doesn't mean that you just have to use black. Yellow and violet. As you see, there's some violet that went with yellow, makes it kind of a green or a gray, and that's good too. And these things got a little bit light here, so I'm going to go back in with some dark. They didn't go very thick, so I got to go with a little thicker. Again, this is my center of interest, so I've got to make sure that this has the most contrast of the whole painting. Hardest edges, the most color. Here's a line. There's a little bit of a line here for the car itself. Has some bunch of lines in there, and also these grill marks. But I can't get to those until everything is dry, and so I'm still waiting for that. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm just getting the other parts done. Like here again is the chrome, and there's some really dark little hits to it. I go with really dark. When's the best time to sprinkle salt? When the paint is still shiny. I find certain paints give a better salt show. If you watched my, I did a thing on salt, so watch that and you can see it's on YouTube. I can post it here. The salt is best when it's not too thick, the paint, and not too watery. So right in the middle, you have to kind of go to where it's wet. Like here, you can tell it goes a little bit wetter here. Here it's starting to dry a little bit too much. So if you don't have more water in there, more pigment than water, then the salt can't dissolve because there's no water to dissolve it. But if there's too much water, then it dissolves it too far, and then you just get this big light spot because the salt is melting into it and just moves everything away. So practice that and figure it out. You know, it's pretty much, I find that it's like when it's shiny, definitely when it's shiny, the wash is shiny, but not too shiny and not floaty pigment where there's so much water that it's just dissolving everything. And also the coarse salt is better. The kosher salt is better for that. If you use the fine stuff, if you have it too wet, it just goes away right away. But try both. I mean, try what you feel best works for you. Always, you know, when you get any kind of new thing happening, try it and practice with it. You know, you may like the fine salt better than the coarse salt. It all depends on what you like. You know, you never know until you try it. And so it's so funny too because the salt areas, those are the parts that are still a little wet, you know, right in through here and through here. So I can't do anything there yet. So I'm working around the salt and letting that dry. Popcorn salt? No, I never thought about using popcorn salt. I think popcorn salt is too fine. Again, popcorn salt is almost like a dust. I remember when, at least the popcorn salt that I liked. So that may be too. It all depends on how much water you put down. Because if you let it dissolve, then it doesn't really do very much. Or I guess it kind of does. Let me just show you real quickly. I have this right here. Hold on 1 second. Here was my example in my Tuesday video. That this part was it has texture, but that was the fine salt, and it was very, very wet, and so that became textury, but not like this. This is a lot of pigment with not that much water. This was halfway in between. So this had water, but also not as much pigment as over here. So it was like in the middle. And that's where you get the most texture. This was sprinkling with water. This was no salt at all. This is just taking your fingers and going like that. So those are the different things I saw that I found worked the best. The other ones, this kind of looks like snowflakes when you're doing them when it's like that. So you do get wash here, but this, also the fine salt, after a while, it doesn't seem like I can take it off. Like it's in the paper, and I'm not sure how good that is either. To have salt actually like embed into your paper. I mean, it's corrosive, right? And so I'm not quite sure about that. If you want to do the fine salt and have it stick in your paper, this part with the fine, this is coarse salt that you rub off, and it's all off, and so you're kind of taking it off of the paper. So I didn't use any of the table salt on this one. I just used the coarse kosher salt is what I used for this one. All right, let's go into our top part here and get our dark outside of the car. And so I'm just going to go in here now and show the outer part of the car. And I'm at my detail stage now because I had my light wash. That was the first wash. Always remember, the light wash is the first wash, which determines the colors. Second wash, the second step, the second wash is always the large, medium, and dark large areas. And that's this everything. And then the final step is the details, the dark details. Sometimes there's lights in that, but usually your light's down already. So you can come back with a opaque color, you can do that. But now it's my dark details. So this is the third step, and it's the finishing step. It's the final step. It's the step that will make everything look like what it is. It's a step that makes, creating your objects so that you can see what they are. And it also makes your painting look good. This step is the painting that makes your painting start looking good. And a lot of people always want their painting to look, the beginners especially want their paintings to look good the whole way through. And that doesn't happen with watercolor. It happens at the end, when like the step now. Because now I can put in the steering wheel. I can put in these things that start making things look like what they are. Like the steering wheel here. I'm just going to put that in there real quick. I may put a little wash over this because the background seems a little bit light. And go on this side. We'll make this a little bit darker on this side. And then go around my, here, this is a chrome mirror, so I can put the same thing like I did here. It'll be chrome. I went over my little gas cap here, so I'm going to rub that out. And to rub something out, I use my 1/4-inch brush, and I use paper towel. Where's my paper towel? I use my paper towel, and I take and I wet it. And you can do this with papers like Stonehenge because they don't soak in as much. And so I'm just going to wet this and blot it. And then I get my gas cap back on. Even though it's in the dark, it's in the dark area, it could be chrome. It could be a chrome thing. And so it could be lighter in that area. I will color it though, and I color a little bit more color on there and let that dry again. I'm going to tap this down because this salt is not drying as fast as I like it to. And so I can just tap down and get some of these things light. And it also picks up some of the salt, and it's done then. It's pretty much done. Now, instead of putting this, remember I pushed this all off the page. I also put boards. If you know trucks, sometimes they put these boards along the edge of here. So instead of making it look like there's a tree back there, I'm going to put a board back here and go across towards the back. Just something I decided to do that I didn't, because I always want to make things look better than they are. And I didn't like this area being all light right there, and so I just put a board on here. And that way it makes it less important, because I don't want your eye to kind of go over here anyways. I want your eye to sit here. My secondary interest will be this area over here. And then I have a little dodge, it's called dodge right there. I can just do that by writing it with opaques. So I've heard of some artists spattering with alcohol. What kind of effect do you get with that? That's the same thing like water, Bill. That's kind of like what you do is you take the alcohol and you kind of spatter it. And it does the same thing like water does, but a little bit more. So again, test that out. All these textures are just to get little dots when it comes to things where you're spattering. And I can even spatter this. I can just take my brush and spatter it with light color. Like I take white and orange or light and purple, and I can just spatter it, and I also get dots. So you decide on how you want to get your texture on here. But I do want you to try to get some texture because it's kind of fun to get texture on an old beat up thing like this. Old beat up truck. So now this got a little bit too light on here, so I'm going to darken this up in here a little bit. This is outside window here. I'm just going to make that a little bit darker than I thought it should be, and I could go from a dark to a light. And then I'm just going to kind of, I just did the steering wheel, so I can't go into the steering wheel. So, all right, so let's get our grill parts going here because that's very important. That's part of our. And see how I'm scraping away the salt at the same time. It's dry enough now, and so I'm just scraping away the salt. I do believe, I think you should be taking the salt away from your paper. I don't think having salt on your paper is actually, you want to definitely take it away once you get that salt, once it's done its thing, then get it off of there. Because it really, I mean, salt is corrosive, and so you don't want it on your paper. I think it's going to affect it in a way that I'm not certain, but I'm just thinking about myself when you see what salt does in the winter to your sidewalks and to everything, your clothes and stuff. And so I'm thinking, take it off of there. And so now I'm going to turn my thing sideways because I have to go here, and I want to kind of make these little grills in here, the little grill. I'm going slow and just make it nice and dark. And I'm using black with a little bit of violet in there. I just start with black and I put violet to make it a little bit of a color. So here's my permanent violet and my black. Look how dark that is. I can put a little blue in there too. That's okay. I want to make it a rich dark, and so black is pretty rich, and then I just make it even richer with a color. You can make it a warmer black too by putting red into it. You can do anything with black and put colors into it, and something that I think and Andrew Wyeth does. And so I think if Andrew Wyeth can do it, so can we. Now I'm going to do my lines. So when I do lines, I'm going to use my rigger brush, because there are actually lines that where you see actual. This is probably the only time you actually use lines is when there's like a little crevice in here. This is the hood, and there's a little line that separates the hood from the front grill, and there's actually this line right here. And again, I don't have one of those rulers, but what I do is I use that ruler when I get a really straight line, which I don't have with me, so I'm going to have to use, let's use this pad here. I'm just going to run my finger on here, and I'm going to just run it along there. All right, that wasn't super great, but good enough. And then there's a line here by the door. This door is a little bit of a line. Now, I don't like to put a lot of lines in, but these are actually lines that separate. They're little crevices, I call them. So crevices are fine to put on. I don't like putting like lines around things to kind of identify them. That flattens things. But for something like this, that's actually a crevice. And so a crevice, you can make the lines for that. And so now I'm going to go in here and do this also. Little marks here. How much time do I have? Okay, we still got time. Hey, for anybody that's new here, I usually go about an hour. I try to get all done in an hour. Oh, look, I totally forgot that that's supposed to be light. That's a light piece, and so let's scrub that out of there. Can't believe I didn't see that. So this piece right here is light, and it's like a little piece of metal that they put on. So it's dry, so what I can do is I can just rub it, dampen it, and then take it out. See how you can just rub it out? You can rub out things in watercolor. I mean, a lot of people think that you can't do that, or there's no going back in and, you know, you gotta get everything at one shot. No, you can get a lot of things you can redo. If you tend to find that you didn't get something, that's fine. Now it even has a little texture to it, so actually that's kind of a good thing. And then I can also refloat some pigment in there. I can put some pigment in there like violet. to make it look more like, you know, the white, the thing here. I can also put white in there. I can put white on top of there, and let it float, and it'll kind of again look like white paper too, and soften it up like that. So don't feel bad if you sometimes have to, you know, fix something. I do it many times. I do a lot of times. So don't feel bad about fixing parts of your painting that you kind of made a mistake on. Go here, make a couple darks in here again. Now let's do this mirror. And the mirror has reflections that are reflecting around it, so you can make some really dark reflections. Like you can't really see it in the picture, but me knowing that I kind of like that mirror there to be very dramatic, because it's like my secondary interest, and it's something other than just plain blah, you know. So I like that, to be able to do that. Now I'm going to do this little dark speck here and separate my door from the back. So put in a second wash on here, a second dark wash. And there's the fender, and here's a dark. And actually this, I'm putting a wash over the marks from the salt. And that's okay, because then it makes it look more like it is part of the truck, and not just like something that I put in salt on. So I'm going to go over it a little bit and let it bleed a little bit more. Thank you so much for making me a better painter than I am. Oh, Sue, you do some pretty nice stuff. You do some very, very nice stuff. I'm glad I can help everybody who's learning a little bit of something. I'm hoping you learn something when I do these. Otherwise, why am I doing them? Hopefully you guys will really learn a bunch of stuff. I like to get it better. If you can get better, that's what I'm here for. Let's make this a little bit darker. And I think I'm going to spatter a little bit this time. There's a little shadow. What else do I have to do in here? Let me think. Let me get this a little dark in here. Edge of this could be a little bit darker. Let's make this a little darker. Yes, Tina, I will do that. That's probably the next thing I'm going to do. I'll put that in there. The weeds down on the bottom, definitely going to put the weeds in. And that's it really makes this whole thing over on this side. Brings your eye back into the area. And I'm also going to have to write Dodge in there, but I'm just going to do that with white paint. And stuff. And so far, so good. And also, I noticed that this right here is kind of dirty. And so I'm going to take my brush and get rid of that. I want to get this back to where this looks nice and clean. The top of the hood, I want to make it look nice and clean, like it's not reflecting those things back there. So look at that. Oh, I just dirty. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I just put a dirty paper towel down. Yeah. Always use clean paper towel when you're dabbing. Oh gosh, let me see that. There we go. No problem. Oh, almost had a problem there. All right, let's go do our little leaves over here. And for that, I'm going to do the weeds, and I'm going to do them in orange and white. Almost orange, white, and yellow, and actually just orange. A little bit of yellow because that's what I have here, and so that'll mix really well. And so it's dry. I gotta make sure it's dry. And then what I'm going to do is make it opaque, and I'm just going to do a little bit of these leaves. I'm actually, going to draw a little stem here going down, and then I'm doing a brush stroke. And these are very opaque, and it's not gouache. It's just watercolor with titanium white. I'm just going to do these little leaves, but then it kind of makes things go in front, right? It makes it look more real. And who's to say that you're not allowed to do that? I'm going to do that. I'm always going to put in opaques if I feel it makes it look better. And up here, I'm going to clean things up with my opaque color. And it gives it a little bit of, you can do some things like a little shininess to things. You can clean up an area. And so a few more. See, I kind of go downwards with a leaf, and then I make a little stem. Another little stem, little leaves. You can do push and pull, where I push it down and pull it, and gets a little bit of the front of the leaf lighter. And over here, we definitely want some weeds in there too. And you got to keep it a little wet so it's smooth. You go in with a smooth. It can't be real thick so that it'll come off your brush. But like for weeds, I'm just gonna make a little. I start thin and I just go down. Maybe a couple more here. And I can also go with a little bit darker. I don't have to go all that light the whole time. I can go a little darker. Use some quinacridone gold in my white. The gold makes it look kind of like a not burnt sienna. Well, like a raw sienna. I don't ever have to buy a brown because purple and yellow make the greatest browns. So a few more things and we're done, guys. Let's see how much time. We still got 10 minutes. So let me just go in here, put a couple little nice little leaves in here. This part is wet, so I can't touch that part. Which I don't want to anyways. I don't want to touch that part. And maybe I can get those, what are those, like milkweeds? I can do a couple of those and make them go like they're downwards. Do milkweeds. Go out there and start painting some weeds and see what one's best to you. When I paint, I hear your advice memorized. All right, awesome. I hope it's not a nightmare for you when you go to sleep. Hope we can get to sleep at night without my words constantly in your head. There we go, little dots in here. I'm just gonna put that in the corner here. A few more leaves here and there. And let's write Dodge. Let's write the Dodge in there. And so those probably would be chrome, you know, but I'm going to put the lights down first. I'm going to do it with, just going to write Dodge, because this is a Dodge. And so we're going to go 1. And then we'll even put a dark one on top of that. Let's go with a smaller brush with my rigger, because the rigger holds a lot of pigment. And you can go for a longer stint without having to change the paint. So I'm going to start with white, and maybe a little bit of orange in there so it's not so bright. And this is what sign painters use. They use these long brushes because it holds a lot of paint. Here's an O, and I can also put the dark parts in too. G. We used to have sign painters working at the agency, and boy, those guys were good. Back in the day when you didn't use a computer, you had to do your things. You just use they do all your type on your work and on my storyboards. They were pretty awesome. And so now I'm going to go with my darks underneath the lettering, like the shadowing part, because there would be shadowing parts on things. So here, this gas cap, some little lines in here. Now, let's see, I probably should wait until this dries before I go in there. Otherwise it blends in there, but we don't have time, so I'm just going to put a real little bit underneath. And yes, this is detail, but hey, it's fun. It makes it, you know, for those people who collect cars or know their vehicles and their trucks, you know, it's good to put those indications on there. And now I think the last thing I'm going to do is spatter a little bit, because it's a little bit too clean here. And so I'm, of course, you know me and spattering. I love spattering. And look at that nice little effects we got with the salt. Isn't that neat? Actually, you know, it's better than having so much of it. This is almost too much of it. Here we have a lot of it, and so almost too much for me. And this one is a little bit different color scheme. A little bit more purple. A little bit more purple. And instead of blue and orange, we got purple and yellow. And so now let's just do a little bit of spatter, and we'll be done. I'm going to be right on time. Amazing to take a gray picture and make it pop in painting. Love it. Thanks, Patty. That's what we do. That's why I want you to do more than taking a picture that's colored and just copying the colors, because I think you can make better colors than what you see in the photograph a lot of times. A lot of times it would be boring. This thing would be just all dark. It would be not that much color in it at all, but if you can grab some other color in that, that's even better. So now I'm just spattering there a little bit. I'm tapping one brush onto another one and getting a few little, you can get some big stuff. I covered the sky because I don't want anything to go in there. I want it to be on the actual truck itself. Let's get some darks over here. Maybe in this area here. A little bit darker, I said I was going to do right underneath here, didn't I? So let's make it a little bit darker right underneath here to get the shadow. A little bit more of a shadow right there. See that? Bring it down and let it just bleed into the cab itself, or into the. How about a little bit of red? Let's spatter some red, some orange. Oh yeah, oh yeah. There we go. That's a nice texture. Let's take it off of there. And you can also take then and dab parts that you feel that you want it not to be on as much. You know, but this is texture. This is rusty. This is a rusty old truck. So we don't want it to be beautiful, perfect, you know. This has been sitting there, and you notice how this is all just bled away, and it doesn't have any distinction between the stuff there. That's the best part. I like when you think that things just dissipate and make things lose their edges. Lost edges, lost edges, lost. It kind of looks like it's blurry then, right? So try to do that. And here I'm gonna put a little shadow from these leaves onto the thing, onto the area. There we go. Let's take the tape off and we're done. Only a couple minutes left. The steering wheel probably should be a little bit darker, but it's behind the window, so that's maybe okay. Love the textures you achieved and the colors and wonderful. Definitely capture the old rusty feeling. Thanks, Maria. Amazing to take a green. Oh yeah, I read that already. Okay, Elsa, you gotta paint it. You guys gotta paint this. Please show me in my BeckerArt group. Go there and post it on my BeckerArt Facebook page, BeckerArt group. And so there you have that one. See, it's just an old brushy truck. And look at how important these little little weeds are over there. Isn't that great? And so then this is this afternoon. A little bit more blue and orange, more yellow and violet. Even though this one kind of has a little bit more red. It's kind of like a burgundy red in there. So have fun, guys. Have fun painting this truck. And I know it's a truck. I was going to have some, you can actually put like a pumpkin or something on it. I was going to have it on the back, like pumpkins on the back for Halloween, but couldn't find one that was good enough for that. So this is what I had. This is what I have to give you. I'll figure it out for you. So until next Thursday, and so I'm not going away for a while, and so I'll be here for the rest of a couple of weeks and stuff. So, and also again, always if you have suggestions on what you want to paint, let me know. I would love to know what you want to paint and what you want to learn. And we'll see you then, all right?